Danny Phantom was like the perfect show, until it wasn't. This episode kinda ruined it. King Tuck, Season 2, Episode 15, with a rating of 6.9. This episode starts off in Amity Park Museum, where Danny, Tucker, and Sam are checking out the Egyptian exhibit with their class. Tucker, being his usual nerdy self, tries to crack a joke, and ain't nobody laughing at this damn fool. And to make things worse, Dash, the school jock, decides that this is a great moment to roast Tucker, but his joke also fails miserably. In a desperate attempt to salvage his pride, Dash does that goofy little fist gesture he always does, and everyone starts laughing. Then they spot a painting of an ancient pharaoh, and it looks exactly like Tucker. Turns out, Tucker has a doppelganger, a royal one. Creepy coincidence, or is it fate? Intrigued, Tucker gets closer to the sarcophagus. Sam warns him not to touch anything because, ancient curses are like the #1 rule in horror movies, but Tucker says, oh no, our boy's curiosity gets the better of him. He leans in, presses something he shouldn't have, and bam, an evil mummy ghost appears out of nowhere. Danny Phantom then tries to fight this weird mummy creature, but this mummy is somehow the strongest motherfucker he's ever battled. So this creature captures Danny for a split second before Tucker comes to save the day, I guess. The mummy, seeing Tucker, assumes he's the pharaoh from his good old days, and the mummy says that he is his servant. But the mummy gets caught lacking and gets beat up by Danny Phantom. Next we see Danny, Tucker, and Sam walking into a park. So we suddenly get a weird time jump, probably a couple hours later to them, just relaxing in the park. We didn't even see Danny Phantom put the mummy back in the box, it just cut. And believe it or not, 5 seconds later, this mummy dude appears out of the ground and starts glazing Tucker again. And everyone seems to be fine with it. Like, didn't this guy just try to kill everyone 5 minutes ago? I see why this episode is the lowest rated by far. Next we see this mummy dude flying Tucker over the city, being a good little boy. He then helps Tucker scare off the jocks at his school and tries to make sure he wins the school election campaign, or something like that. So he wins over Tucker's trust of being his little minion slave or whatever, but as you might have predicted, the mummy doesn't have the best of intentions. The mummy gives a weird staff to Tucker, and he starts power tripping like he's a pharaoh. Now, if I were Danny and Tucker was talking to me like that, he could expect an ass whooping in his near future. A couple of non-relevant scenes later, he swings a couple times with the staff, and it makes a giant portal or something, and the whole school is about to be ripped apart. It transports the school to an alternate dimension where Tucker is suddenly living out his wildest power fantasies. He's got a throne, an army, a weird amount of confidence. Tucker as a character is usually great, funny, nerdy, relatable, but this felt like an episode of Fairly Odd Parents gone wrong. Meanwhile, Danny and Sam are stuck playing catch-up, trying to figure out how to rescue their friend without getting clobbered by other ghostly mummies. Their plan? Classic Danny. Phase through stuff, blast some ectoplasm, and hope for the best. And this scene alone makes it the worst episode in the show. It's so gross. And why did Nickelodeon have to show us people's feet for 5 uninterrupted seconds? But the real kicker is Tucker starts playing out his little pharaoh gig a little too seriously. He's bossing people around like he's been waiting for this his entire life. Did Tucker always have this secret megalomaniac tendencies? Probably not, but the writers really leaned into it, and it just feels off for the character. So Tucker's having the time of his life while Danny and Sam are fighting off random ghost guards and do whatever it takes to make Tucker turn back to normal. In the end, it looks like Tucker wasn't evil after all, but the scepter that the mummy gave him somehow made him the bad guy. Moving on, Danny steals the scepter from Tucker, and he suddenly becomes the big nerd again that we're all familiar with. And the weird mummy dude seems to really want the scepter back, so it does everything to catch Danny Phantom. As I said, this mummy dude is on some steroids because he catches him almost immediately. Next, the big sphinx they were building comes to life, which I thought was actually pretty cool. It looks like Danny was no match for these guys. I mean, this Danny Phantom episode was somewhat weak in comparison to the other ones. Instead, Tucker seems to save the day as he commands everyone, including the big sphinx thing, to attack the mummy, and the episode just ends with the mummy guy getting chased by the sphinx. Now, suddenly we're back in the school, and Tucker gets bullied again. I rate this episode a 6.5 out of 10. I can definitely see why this episode is the lowest rated. Continuity errors, and just lazy writing. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.